So Revenant Reborn came out and has completely reinvigorated Revenant. A lot of people are playing him. He's honestly a lot more fun. He's a lot more useful in general. And I think overall, it was a net positive for the entire community to get this humongous, really big overhaul, redesign, rework for Revenant. So I wanted to discuss with you guys, which legends do you think are in the worst position right now and need a rework to just feel something again, you know? A lot of people are saying Lifeline. A lot of people are saying Mirage. A lot of people are saying Crypto. Some people even mentioned Ashe. We'll discuss what reworks to help change this legend completely. And let's knock it out of the way. Let's start with Lifeline. I think Lifeline is easily one of the characters that needs the most love. Lifeline's not bad. That's like the simplest way to put it. I just think that Lifeline, especially with the introduction of Newcastle and with the existence of Gibraltar, even though I know Gibraltar is not really in the meta anymore, I just don't feel like Lifeline does what she's supposed to do the best. One of the things that I think holds her back tremendously is her ultimate. Her ultimate just slows down the gameplay. Where every other character has ultimates and abilities that keep you pushing and keep you moving, the ultimate kind of forces you to stay pretty stationary. And I know they reworked it so the ultimate comes down pretty fast. Regardless, it's still just this really big beacon of things that doesn't really help your team in the late game when you already have tons of loot. And even early game, it's like terrible because say you don't find armor, which is very common now, Lifeline's ultimate will still give you blue armor. That's so stupid. Lifeline's ultimate by default should only give a minimum of purple armor. So if we were to ever have a Lifeline Reborn type character, I want to just completely axe the care package. I think we as a society have moved on from the care package. Nobody would be upset. Everybody would be happier for it. I want to keep her passive. I think her passive is the best part of her kit. The fact that you can passively revive people is a huge deal. I think the fact that you can just touch somebody and they get revived, big deal. Because I still think her revive does plenty of work. Now for her tactical, I'm not a big fan of the tactical. It forces you to be very stationary in a very mobile game, and I don't really like that. So instead, what I want the tactical to be is still be the Doc healing drone, but I want Doc to be able to travel with you. You should be able to like at least walk with it so you can like slowly heal and move at the same time from like the zone and stuff. That's like one option. The other option, like maybe letting her pick it up so that she can walk around with it and heal. Maybe the drone can even pick up your teammates, like physically pick up your teammates. If you drop a drone next to a knocked teammate, it will like pick them up as it revives them and like moves them with you. It becomes like even more of like a tactical in that sense. The other thing I really want the tactical to do is heal shields. I think just healing health is fine, but it should be able to heal everything. And I don't think it should be like healing you in a sense where it's like it has to like attach to you. It should just be like this radius thing that kind of like gives you waves of healing, so it's just faster. I think that's one thing they should do for sure. And then for ultimate, I think a completely new ultimate that maybe uses the tactical again. Maybe the tactical, it like supercharges. It's like a reverse EMP. You like throw like the tactical out and it explodes with like a burst of like healing. So it's like an instant burst of like huge amount of healing and stuff. Maybe like anybody within the radius of this like an initial burst, if they're knocked, will get revived, like an old school mercy res, and it forces the enemy team to have to look for this like ultimate and like shoot it, take it down, waste energy on that versus having to waste energy on your team. And at the same time, it brings your whole team up. I think it might be a little bit overpowered, but I don't mind characters being like slightly overtuned initially and then worked downwards from there. That's the way that I would do a Lifeline Reborn and do a full Lifeline rework. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below what you think they should do with Lifeline. I'll talk about Ashe because Ashe also feels clunky. Her entire kit doesn't really flow. Like her passive is a passive, I guess. Sure. I mean, it's kind of a scan, but not really. The arc snare is pretty solid, but like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, there's no synergy in this entire kit. Where like Lifeline at least has synergy when you know that this is all supporting your team with heals, with different types of heals, with revives. That's like the synergy you want. And when we do our rework with Lifeline, that synergy will get even better. But like Ashe, there's actually no synergy. I don't understand what it is that Ashe is supposed to be. And like the funniest part is she's from Titanfall, so she should be more like her Ronin Titan, right? I also like the idea of like the sword being like part of her kit. I can't stand that Ashe has a sword that she doesn't use, and instead she has these stupid nunchucks as her heirloom. One of the worst heirlooms ever. Let me show you. Look at this. Stupidest heirloom. So dumb. Okay, first of all, her passive is like basically non-existent. It does give you a rough idea of where enemies are in the map because you can see like where the little skulls are. So that's kind of a nice little perk, but in the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. Most people don't even realize it's there. Marking the death boxes is like quirky. It's cool, but like it doesn't really like do much, if that makes sense. I do think the tacticals a little bit is pretty sick. If I were to rework Ashe, if we got like an Ashe Reborn, I would probably change a couple things. Her passive, we'd give her a new passive completely, right? Part of me thinks that like if we're ever gonna get a true Titanfall character, someone that actually deserves to have like some type of like wall running, it should be Ashe. From a balance perspective, adding wall running is honestly pretty, pretty terrible. But I do think that their passive could be something that does revolve around the data knife besides scanning. So maybe we keep the scanning part, we keep the part of the skulls, because that part is already like fine, but it's not broken in anyway. And now we add an extra thing that has to do with her data knife. Perhaps with the data knife, she has the ability to hack into like specific type of like bins, even trap them perhaps. And then so now if people come up to these bins, they'll get like shocked or something. And you can use bins as like bait or something. That's just like another side thing that I think would be kind of cool. That kind of adds more to her trapping playstyle. If people open the bin, it pings their location for you. Like everything about that becomes like this really scary, like, oh God, like this bin just killed us. In that scenario, gives you time to get your team like, hey, someone's opening the death box. Someone's using the death box. Let's go. And you can like still push backwards. So that's my idea for like a passive rework, just adding more to like this trapping aspect. You can just hack a bunch of different parts of people's kits. Perhaps you can even make her like full Sombra. You can hack other people's abilities. You can take like a Watson node and you can hack a Watson node. You can take a caustic barrel and you can hack a caustic barrel. Stuff like that would be kind of cool. I might be a little bit too much, especially just for a passive. Just an idea that I'm throwing out there. So for sure, like the other part about like trapping bins and stuff, I think would be really cool. Trapping death boxes, trapping bins, becoming like this true trap character. I think the arc snare is actually a pretty cool tactical. I think it needs to work two different ways. I like the way that you can throw it and it snares people. I also think that you should be able to just keep it down somewhere, kind of similar to a caustic trap or a Watson trap, where you can put it down. It has a little radius thing and it just stays there kind of semi-permanently until somebody walks into it. So it becomes like this like snare that you can use more defensively, because right now it feels like the only way to get real value out of her tactical is to use it pretty offensively. On top of that, I do think I'm of the opinion that she should have two. She should have two tactical arc snares. You can maybe even decrease the damage it does or decrease its time that you trap people, but like having more options when it comes to like just getting snares off, especially if you can keep them kind of passively on the floor, would only be a net benefit to her being this full-on trapper. That's just my idea for like how you can like update the tactical, but a part of me almost wants to get rid of the tactical completely, because if you see how I adjusted the passive before, I kind of shifted the tactical to be part of the passive. So I think the other thing that she could do is do something with her sword. So like I want her to be a little bit more like her Ronin Titan. And if you guys know how the Ronin Titan works, the Ronin has the ability to essentially deflect stuff. She uses her sword kind of like Genji does to deflect enemy projectiles and whatnot. The big problem with the deflect ability is like obviously getting like Kraber deflected would be like annoying, but like be kind of hype as well if you can do it. But the other thing is people just wouldn't shoot you and it doesn't really add any utility. However, I think that's why this deflecting can have two different properties. You're either using it defensively as a deflect, so like you press the button, after the deflect is done, you swing your sword to the floor and create like a shockwave that's very similar to the Ronin Titan's like shockwave with the sword. So she has basically two of the Ronin abilities with the sword. So that's one thing that I think is really cool and I would really enjoy about Ashe's tactical. Like it would be a whole new rework to her tactical at that point. And then her ultimate phase breach could still stay the same. I just think you need to increase its range and increase its ability to go through windows and go through different things, because like 99% of the time it's just a worse Wraith ultimate. But what makes it very, very strong is that it has the ability to go through windows. It has the ability to go through weird like gaps. She should be able to go through like the tiniest little crack. So maybe even go all in and like make her be able to go through walls. It would be a whole different rework, but I think would be humongous to making her truly that character that can just be aggressive and be tactical and be extremely like scary to see, because you can just have them come through out of nowhere, attack you guys, kill you, especially if you like already trapped up that room, trapped up all the death boxes and whatnot. So yeah, just make Ashe into Genji. Okay, Crypto, let's talk about him. I do genuinely think that Crypto is not in a position to get a full reborn. I know some people are probably like, oh, Crypto's really bad, give him a reborn. I don't think he needs a reborn. I think the rest of his kit is like really good and very synergistic. I just think that he doesn't really have a passive. Like the only passive he has is that he can like check banners out. His new passive should just be this. The drone can just follow you at a specific distance. So that's it. That's all it should do. In exchange for that ability, which is kind of broken, the drone needs to be a little bit bigger of a hitbox and really, really weak. That's basically it. I think that Crypto has always been in this really make or break place. Whenever there's a meta where traps are super heavy, like when Caustic is really good or anything like that, Crypto is the best counter to that. So Crypto has seen a ton of competitive success at the highest level. So what Crypto needs is just a slight buff and a slight rework in the sense to just the ability for him to be more aggressive and less of a passive legend. That's basically it. So that's how I feel about Crypto right now. Feel free to disagree in the comments down below, but like genuinely speaking, I think if you rework Crypto to a point where it changes his entire kit, you'll lose his charm and what makes him really fun. He just needs a slight buff in that direction. A moving scan is going to be crazy. Speaking of scans though, so let's talk about Vantage. I know she's one of the newer legends, so it's ridiculous to ask for a rework this soon, but she needs some changes, dude. So her passive though is kind of like non-existent. Anytime she uses like a scope, she can scan people through it, sort of. Gives you a little bit of information, kind of. When Vantage uses this tactical, it requires her to like first send out her bat, then she has to go like up. It's like a slower Revenant ult. So I also don't necessarily think that she needs a humongous rework. I just think that they need to make it so that her tactical has has a different type of utility than Revenant. So maybe to balance out the fact that the tactical is slightly slower, maybe she can like jump to it way faster. Maybe her cooldown is a lot faster. So basically you can essentially jump to like to echo like multiple times like in like a fight, versus Revenant, who has the ability to jump anywhere whenever he wants. If you already have echo out, it does limit where you can jump because you have to wait for echo to get there. But on the bright side, your cooldown is shorter. That's basically it though. I don't really think like anything about her is necessarily bad. I just don't really see like a way you can really put Vantage on your team with so many better scan legends and so many better movement legends that exist. So do I want a Vantage Reborn? Not really. I don't really think a Vantage Reborn is necessary at all. That's just my hot take though. So let's talk about Fuse real quick. So the only thing I would want to change, I've been talking about this since day one. I think he should take 25% less explosive damage, period, from enemies, from himself. I think he shouldn't be affected by his own ultimate, period. I think it should be like the way it works with his teammates, where it still slows your teammates, but it doesn't like hurt him. I think it should work the same way with Fuse. The guy literally survived crazier explosions in the lore. It's lore accurate for him to not be affected by fire. Let's actually say he takes 50% less damage from explosives, right? Which would be crazy, but also really good. In that same scenario, you would want to run frag grenades, because there should be an option with your tactical that you can charge the tactical, like charge it, and it gives like a shotgun explosion burst thing. It's like a big boop thing, right? It doesn't do like significant damage or anything, but it boops, and then you can like rocket jump. So the thing I would want Fuse to do is be able to use the grenades that he has, this crazy storage of grenades that he has, to be able to charge a cool little rocket jump. And that would make him a cool mobility legend, and it would make him 10 times more fun. So if we ever see a Fuse Reborn, I think grenade jumping would put him like over the top. He would still take a little bit of damage from it, but like it would be, the pros and cons are like right there, you know? Obviously, on top of the fact that he doesn't get hurt by his own ultimate, you can like spam your ultimate into like rooms and just go in. I think that would make him a ton of fun and like really strong to have on your team. I like Fuse though. Now our final culprit, we have none other than Mirage. Let's talk about Mirage Reborn. Let's be honest here, Mirage is in the strangest spot, because I think he is the definition of a well-designed legend, in the sense that everything he does is doing what it's supposed to do, but it's just bad. Like, I think his passive is nuts. Like the fact that he goes invisible when reviving, and his teammate goes invisible as well. I think we should go all in on the invisibility. If we were to see a Mirage Reborn, we go all in on being not just the guy that makes clones, but the guy that goes invisible. What that means is that when you use his tactical, his ability to make a little clone, maybe for a second, like a couple seconds after you use it, you go invisible. So they don't know where you went. They have to assume that's you, and you can get out of invisibility the moment you shoot. I genuinely think like going all in on invisibility is the play, because the ultimate, one of the best parts about the ultimate is that split second of invisibility that you get that kind of confuses the enemy and gives you time to like kind of like move around and escape, right? Same thing with this tactical. I think there should be like a couple seconds of invisibility that exists that obviously you can break out of the moment you shoot. I also think that his tactical should have more health. I think the tactical should almost be able to block bullets. It would make his tactical way more useful and make him the true support hero he's always meant to be, because at worst case scenario, in the middle of a fight, nobody's gonna fall for a Mirage clone, but you can use a Mirage clone as like a wall. You can just literally just put them in front of you and just like get away and survive, on top of them being scanned for shooting it. Now they have to shoot it because like, damn, I gotta shoot this thing or else I can't get through. I think it also should like have decoy bullets so it makes noise, but if it started like just shooting and stuff and making noise, people would fall for it way more. So I think that's like the rework we want from Mirage. We just want it to be way more useful for the tactical, and I think they should go more and more all in on the invisibility factor that Mirage has, that exists in his passive, that exists in his ultimate. Give it to his tactical and make his tactical stronger. I think that could put Mirage in a really good position. In general though, I do think he's a ton of fun, and in the right hands is still like a menace, you know, especially in 1v1s, but there's no solo mode. So until it's a team game, so he needs just a little more. Okay guys, so that's all the characters that I think personally could get another reborn, kind of like how Revenant got reborn. But let me know in the comments down below which legends you think deserve a rework, deserve a full-on reborn. Let me know if you disagree with me about the ones that I came up with. Maybe you have better options for tacticals and ultimate changes and passive changes, whatever it is, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for vibing. And if this becomes a video, play the outro now.